Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
All right, gentlemen, how's it going? This is your main man, Scott McKay, coming at you again with another episode of the Mountaintop Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about sleep. And before you think that that's going to make you fall asleep to talk about, guess again, because this is going to probably be one of the more exciting topics we cover. And that's for reasons that I'm going to let my guest disclose to you himself. His name is Josh Bronfman, and he is an entrepreneur. He is a certified sleep science coach, which I'm interested to hear what that entails. And he's the founder of something called Dreamer, which he will tell you all about. And the title of this episode, which I'm still on the fence about at the time we're recording, but you've already clicked on it, so you know where the decision went by now, is either Not Worth Losing Sleep Over or Sleep When You're Dead Is No Way to Live, boy. It's going to be one or the other. And I think I'm leaning towards the latter, even though it's longer. From Scottsdale, Arizona, my new friend, Joshua Bronfman. Josh, how's it going, man?
It's going very well. How are you, Scott? Thanks for having me.
I've been getting sleep lately. You look very well rested yourself, I have to say. So this is a guy who eats his own dog food and sleeps on his own pillow.
Well, thank you. With two young kids, it is hard sometimes, but when we do get the sleep, we take advantage of it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, young children are excellent sleep prevention devices, and they're very excellent birth control methods too. Which I think Bill Cosby covered years and years ago. But they definitely, I'm not sure who lost more sleep when my kids were infants, them or me, when they were little. And I was hoping I could sleep through the night by the time I was, at the next birthday, not my kid.
Well, it's probably you. And in that too, it had a greater effect on you as well. Right. I mean, they're supposed to be up and waking in short wake windows, especially when they're younger. But as an adult, the lack of sleep has a pretty substantial effect on us, our relationships, how we interact with the world, our kids. So, yeah, it's it's a pretty big kick in the butt having young kids, but it's all worth it for sure.
I have to ask you, what caused you to think about sleeping better as basically your life's work at this point? How did you get in this gig, man?
Yeah, this was not something that was originally planned. So when my wife and I had our firstborn son, Henry, these days, I'm not sure with you and your kid, but everyone says you've got to get a sound machine. And there's a lot of research about how that can help, but the products that we had failed us miserably. And one night at 2 a.m, our product that needed a screwdriver and AA batteries in 2022 to function died. Our kids started screaming. My wife looked at me and said, "You have to fix this." And so
you might as well have had Miami Sound Machine and Gloria Estefan at that point.
I know.
Although she did a pretty good job of putting me to sleep back when I was 20.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Different. Yeah.
So, I didn't take that into, I fixed the machine that night, but it caused me to, we wanted to make a modern product that actually fit the lifestyle of modern parents, something that actually didn't need AA batteries anymore, could travel with us. And as I got more into it, the science behind sleeping and why we need it, why our kids need it, how it helps us in every aspect of our life, it consumed me, I would say, in the best way, because, again, before that, I was not sleeping very well. And as a young man, it didn't really seem to have that big of an effect on me. But as I get older, that mountain keeps stacking up. So I just found it super interesting and have wanted to share what I've learned with other people, because I think it's truly profound.
It is profound. And it's also very practical. This show, quite obviously, is for men who want to be better men who get better women, right?
Yeah.
It seems really macho to talk about not getting any sleep. The president of the United States brags about not needing any sleep. And anytime we talk about someone as saying, man, they hardly ever sleep, it's like they need no sleep. I mean, even Jocko Willink talks about only needing 4 hours of sleep a night. That's why I get up at 4:30. It's like this macho thing, and we hold people up, like I'll put them on a pedestal if they somehow need less sleep.
Yeah.
And this is regardless of whether they're more productive guys in life, high achievers, or, there's some guy who's prowling bars in Dublin, Ireland, going, sleep with your dad. And it doesn't matter which guy it is. The macho thing to say is, I don't sleep much. I shouldn't sleep much. I'm some kind of wuss if I do sleep. But when we don't have enough sleep, there's this trickle down effect into our entire lives, not only in the workplace and the obvious things like I'm going to fall asleep on the job or something crazy like that, but our demeanor, our
Mm,
mindset, our ability to process information quickly and effectively. That all gets robbed from us, which affects our ability not only to attract women, but to relate to them as well, which matters deeply to the guys on this show. Talk about
yeah.
that, Josh.
100%. I mean, I think this, this macho aspect of it came at a time where we didn't really have a lot of research on what a lack of sleep did to us. So it felt macho, right? To like, I'm always working, I'm pulling all nighters, but not really having an actual understanding of how that's affecting us. So there is a ton of research now on what's going on with this. So even there's a guy named Dr. Matthew Walker who talks about if a adult male gets 5 hours or less of sleep for a week straight, their testosterone levels are going to lower 10 to 15%.
It's interesting you won't hear that from testosterone doctors,
Well,
or will you nowadays?
nowadays, I believe you will. I mean, even the doctor that I talk to, and people with young kids, right? All these factors, whether it's cortisol, having higher cortisol affects your testosterone production. What affects sleep? Cortisol, higher cortisol levels. Um, it these and not only being, you have men on here who want to be, and like myself, I want to be a better professional. I want to kick butt at work, but I also want to have a better relationship with my wife, with my kids, and just more facts, right? Sleep deprivation causes a 60% increase in a negative way in which we tackle obstacles in our life. Whether that's something that our wife said, whether that's something that our boss said, whether that's a project we're doing, poor behavior by our kids, we're actually fueling ourselves to not react to life in a positive way.
So you've quantified that. You said 60%. How do you arrive at that
60%.
number?
This was a study that was done again by a Dr. Matthew Walker. He's a Cal Berkeley scientist. He is kind of one of the preeminent sleep researchers, and it's
And you're a
actually
much more
looking.
exciting and interesting podcast guest than he would be, which is why we have you.
He's got great hair, so that's the only thing. But this is actually talking about your prefrontal cortex, right? And how that reacts with the amygdala, and how actually like your prefrontal brakes. So like your regulation. I know that's, but your ability to say, okay, I'm taking information now. Is this positive? Is this negative? How do I react? When you're sleep deprived, that system doesn't work. So when you're talking to your wife, right? If you're talking to a girlfriend, um, something that may just be benign comes off as threatening. And then you, just being men, or some better men, we don't have a really great ability to say, okay, wait, stop. What'd she say? How did she say it? It's just this, okay, now I'm going to snap back because I feel threatened. And sleep
Or
does that.
maybe we miss it altogether. We're like, what? Like a
100%.
16-year-old, who get very little sleep.
Yeah.
And this actually isn't age related, is it? Young men and older guys all need sleep.
100%. I mean, these are our hormone factories, right? We're producing our testosterone during REM sleep. So if you're a kid going through puberty, or I'm close to reaching my 40s, or you're a man, who you're trying to create this testosterone, if you're lacking in that good REM sleep, you're, what's your body going to do, right? And then all we do is replace this with TRT, with testosterone therapy, hormone therapy. But if you're not actually fixing the base root of where where the factory starts, you're just kind of castrating yourself, for the lack of a better term.
That's a pretty clear term.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's what we're doing, then we need to stop doing that.
Well, and I think in terms of, to go back a little bit to that macho-ness, right? I think that sleep has kind of come back to, more people are talking about sleep, but I think where people are missing it is, it's not just like a wellness fad, right? This isn't like take some vitamins or you should be doing more yoga. Like, this is a basic core life principle. And, we talk sometimes about there's a triangle of how we train, what our bodies, what we eat, and our mental capacity. Well, sleep literally regulates all those, right? If you sleep poorly, that trends you to eat poorly. Well, if you eat poorly, how are you going to train well? And if all of those aren't doing well, sleep deprivation goes right into depression. If you talk to almost anybody who has depression or therapists, a lack of sleep is integral into what these guys are dealing with, these people are dealing with. How do you fix this? Well, the core piece, that key, is really honing in on your sleep.
I think it's interesting you would say sleep is not a fad. People have been sleeping probably for well over 200 years, hopefully for 8 hours a night. Yeah, I would think, this goes way back in human history. Well, of course, it's a human need. It's like oxygen or food or arguably sex. We've got to sleep. You're going to sleep at one point or another. You've seen those contests where everybody puts a hand on a pickup truck, and the last guy with the hand on the pickup truck is going to be the one who wins the pickup truck. They do that like state fairs.
Yeah.
It's the last guy to fall asleep. That's the guy.
Yeah.
It's a sleep contest, and someone's going to win and everybody else is going to lose. And the guy who wins may actually be wishing he lost by the time he wins, because you got to sleep. So depriving ourselves of something we know we need, machismo aside, just flat straight doesn't make any sense. So why do we do this? We don't deprive ourselves of oxygen. We absolutely don't deprive ourselves of sex if we can help it. Why sleep? What's up with sleep? Why do we do this? What's the psychology there?
I'm not a psychologist, but I would say it's kind of like breathing, right? Like, breathing and sleep are just things that we do as humans. And in terms of breathing, we have this auto breathing, but there are almost no other animals out there that can control their breathing and focus on their breathing like we can, right? When you talk about box breathing and meditation, breathing for almost every other animal on the planet is just an auto. When dogs pant, they've been running around. We actually have an ability to control that. With sleep, we just it's 10 o'clock, time to go to sleep. And, oh God, I got to go to work in the morning. And so I got to do this and this. So I'm just going to wake up here. And I think we just completely lose it as something that needs to have a particular focus on. That there's a protocol to good sleep. And, this whole concept of just going to sleep, I don't know many people, very few actually, that can say, I'm going to sleep, and within 5 minutes, they're just out. Sleep is a process, right? I mean, our brains, based on circadian rhythm, what you did during that day, your coffee intake, your alcohol intake, your cortisol, all those things play a role into actually your transition into sleep, and then how good that sleep is.
I think people who have it figured out go to sleep at a reasonably uniform time every night. They're on a routine. Like, they go to bed at 11, wake up at 6 or 7 every day of their life. They're on a rhythm. Like, we should get kids on. And the people who are really militant against like daylight savings time, that's what they talk about. Like, hey, this messes up my whole rhythm. And everybody else who's just all over the place with their sleep cycle goes, start making sense. The rest of us out here, it doesn't matter how much sleep we get. This, you're overreacting. Whereas the people who are calling the other people overreactors are the ones with the problem. Because if your sleep is that out of whack, you're out of whack. And this shows up, like you said, so many areas of life are affected. We not only interact more poorly with women and just look stupid and clueless and act like the opposite of a provider and a protector, frankly. When we have a hair trigger when it comes to arguing over things that weren't even meant to be arguments, et cetera, which absolutely happens when you're sleep deprived. Yeah. But you don't look good. You get dark circles under your eyes and you start dragging and your voice starts slurring. Your physical attractiveness drops as well. So I thought that was very interesting that you would bring that up.
I mean, there are studies behind that as well, right? They've had sleep-deprived people, their pictures shown to strangers, and they are actually not as attractive as those who sleep. And I think the hard thing is, you look at yourself in the mirror every day, right? And I think it's hard to say, oh my God, I look like crap. I didn't, if it's something that is a progressive, like you're not getting consistent good sleep for a long time, you're also not noticing it. But if you're a guy that's dating or, home with your wife, trust me, they notice it, right? There's actually a physical, like your brain talks to your eyes and goes, there's something missing there. Like something's not going well. And they've had studies about this. It's insane.
And you get the twitchies too, like your eyelids start twitching when you haven't had enough sleep and all that crazy stuff. Probably caffeine related too. If the caffeine is keeping you up at night and then you're not getting any sleep, it's like, boom, it's like a double whammy on your health right there.
Well,
the caffeine even is that, bad, right? And then the lack of sleep sucks too,
I mean, I think in terms of caffeine being bad, I think stopping caffeine, when to stop caffeine is important, right? And when to stop having alcohol is important. So if you're a guy that's having, a coffee at 3, 4 in the afternoon, and then you're having a few beers at 10 o'clock at night, not only are you confusing the hell out of your system, but you're not going to sleep well. And
well, you're just going to have to get up and pee. You could be 28 years old, but you're going to have to get up and pee in the middle of the night regardless. It's not even a prostate problem. It's an intake problem.
It's an intake problem. And then what you do to mess up? You pick up your phone. I wonder what time it is. Does somebody message me? Boom, you've messed up your circadian rhythm. So you are literally punching yourself in the face nonstop. And then if you're literally drinking alcohol, drinking alcohol very close to bedtime has a deep impact on your REM sleep. So then we go back to, so if you're affecting your REM sleep and that's affecting your testosterone production, and you want to do this all day, every day and feel like a man, I think you need to roll the tape back and say,
the snowball effect is just crazy.
It's a snowball effect. And I think, again, then that, I think all of us, I know for myself, and I'd assume for all your listeners, like we take being a good partner, a good husband very seriously. And man, if I'm snappy and this is the trend that I'm going down, even if the only thing I care about is being a good partner, I want to focus on my sleep because holy hell, that if that's that important to my relationship, why would I not?
If you're looking to attract women, obviously you want to be the most attractive guy you are. I mean, we preach from the rooftops around here, Joshua, that, it isn't like you have to be 6'2" and hot and a male model to get women. But what women really appreciate about a man who they'll even subconsciously start considering to be a provider and a protector is he doing the best with what he's got? Does he have his own life handled? Is he well put together, as I've heard some women say? And if you're sleep deprived, you've just given yourself a massive hit. One thing I've noticed, I don't think this is across the board. I think there are notable examples of people who are the opposite. But people who are like night owls and up all night and don't get a lot of sleep are very often low energy people. They're not go-getters. They're very slow. They're the guy who takes a big breath before he says anything. So maybe they're not expending a whole lot of energy such that they need sleep, or maybe there's a cart and a horse there. You know what I mean? So I've noticed that. Have you ever noticed that about people who just don't sleep much?
100%. Well, and even the studies show that, the people you talk about, it's like less than 1% of the population actually have the chemistry to survive on low sleep. So we're not, on a planet of 8 billion people, we're not talking about a lot of people, right?
So there is a genetic proclivity possible here, but it's a very, very
Possible,
rare
but
thing.
yeah. And I mean, I think even if you had this, are you really going to go in and say, I think I might have this, right? Like knowing this marker is probably few and far between. Yeah, it's really sad. And I think that ultimately, those of us again who are like, oh, I'm just a low sleep, like, well, how do we change that? And even like you said, having consistent routines. I mean, I think there's a lot of men who are like, I can't, or people out there who say, well, I can't really go to bed until 11. Well, I would not suggest putting your butt in bed at 9 because you're just going to stare at the ceiling. But one thing you can start doing, and I think daylight savings, regardless, is setting consistent morning wake up time. So there are things that are super easy, right? Like I'm going to wake up every morning at 6. 30 minutes after I wake up, I'm going to go put my face in the sun because that instantly starts promoting your circadian rhythm that's going to help you at night. So these aren't things, right, that, we're not. I think the great thing about this topic that I love is I'm not promoting, people take melatonin, people take, I drink nighttime tea, but I think that's also part of routine. These are things that we can just do ourselves to help ourselves and to help our kids. Because ultimately, whether it's, you want to be the best version of yourself for your kids, your wife, your work, whether you're a boss or you have employees, like you just want to be the best version of ourselves. I think all of us ultimately innately want that. And this is a pretty easy thing to get a jump start off.
You've talked about circadian rhythm several times in passing, but that really is a linchpin to this whole conversation. You mentioned waking up at a certain time and going out and putting your face in the sun.
Yeah.
That's literal. There's studies that back up the need to do that. And that's from the cavemen days. It's like, you should walk around barefoot on grass also because it, grounds you. And yeah, exactly. There are reasons baked in to our human existence and how we're designed that aren't designed about artificiality and blue screens and technology. It's about living on the land and not having light bulbs at night. You wake up and do work when it's daytime and we sleep at night. So there's this idea that, let's say we pick going to bed at 11. A person who has that routine set up will go to bed at 11 even if they don't feel tired and somehow still fall asleep because their body knows what to do because they've set up this rhythm. Meanwhile, there are a lot of people, and I'm raising my hand. And the reason why I'm raising my hand and bringing this up isn't because I'm projecting my own state on the entire audience, but I've actually run this by some of my buds, and they're like, oh, dude, that's me also. We kind of feel like we wish there were 30 hours in a day or 32 hours in a day because I don't need 8 hours of sleep out of every 24. I kind of need 8 hours of sleep out of every 30 or 32 hours. Yeah. Like if I go to bed at 11 and I wake up at 7 and I have 8 hours of sleep, I'm not ready for bed again at 11 that night. I'll be up till like 4 or 5 and go, yawn, I'm tired. Then I sleep for 8 hours and I'm on this 32-hour cycle. Now that obviously is not something that your 9-to-5 boss will put up with. That's not something that life allows for. Meanwhile, going along with that problem, and I would argue we've trained ourselves to have that problem. I don't know whether you're going to agree or disagree. Your body can be trained to be back on that 24-hour rhythm. Maybe if it's 7 hours of sleep or whatever. I don't know what you're going to say about that, and I can't wait to hear. But I want to add on to that something we haven't talked about yet that I think needs to be said, which is the idea of junk sleep. In other words, hey, look, you know what? I worked a night shift. I can go to bed at 7 in the morning and wake up at 4 in the afternoon. And, I've gotten 9 hours of sleep. Why am I still tired? And it's because our bodies need to sleep when it's dark and be awake when it's light. And even if you pull the shades and have light blockers on your windows, people who work night shifts still suffer long term. So what's going on with that whole circadian rhythm thing? Where's the truth and
Well,
the fiction there?
man, I think shift workers have that's a tough business, right? Because again, that almost goes back to people who say, "Well, I'll sleep on the weekends." Well, if you're catching up on sleep, it actually doesn't help. It actually is hurting your rhythm in what you're talking about, right? And I think that this whole notion, I mean, I kind of put this almost back to like, the old food pyramid, right? It's like, well, everyone's a little bit different. So when you say everyone needs 7 hours, I don't believe that, right? I think what I've learned and what is important ultimately, and if you have, like, I wear a Whoop, there's, a lot of these sleep trackers, having a certain percentage of deep and REM sleep is super important. So having, 25% of your sleep be that REM sleep, 20% deep sleep, even if you have, 6 hours of sleep, if you're able to have more full, complete sleep cycles, that's a win over 8 hours, let's say, of broken sleep. Because when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're going back to stage one. You're not like, oh man, I was teetering in stage two, but man, I gotta pee. And then all of a sudden you're back, right, going into deep sleep. You start back out. So, I think ultimately, in terms of the circadian rhythm, our environment has messed that up, right? And I think that ultimately going back, like you're saying, starting off from a good point, getting grounded, not everybody can do that. But I think, we can all go through our faces in the sun for a minute or two in the morning. And but rather than picking up your phone, right? But I think even like you're saying, having kind of that sleep routine of, even if you're going to bed at 11, well, if you start that wind down time at 10, not having a screen on. So, let's say, my wife and I do this sometimes, and it's like, damn it, I did it again. Kids go to bed. We're like, we just want some time. Let's put a movie on. And you're like, oh my God, it's 10:30. We got to turn this off, and I need to be asleep in 10 minutes. Well, that's, again, unless you're a special person, it's typically not going to happen. So I think if you're somebody who's like, I wish there were 30 hours in the day, which, trust me, I hear that. But if you're like, my goal is to sleep at 11, well, start the process at 10, right? I try and do that, have some tea, do some reading, put my phone down, put the group chat down, if you want to read something, print it out, read it in bed. I think that's the stuff that actually will start telling your brain, oh, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. And that ultimately, I would suggest everybody who watches this and anybody who I talk to, try and do that for 30 days and see how your energy is during the day. Because I think if you're sitting there at 4 a.m. being like, I'm just not tired. Well, you probably haven't got enough sleep, and you're in this cycle that it's telling your body this is okay to function. Man, if you got some lab work, or if you actually, went on a date, or, talked to your wife, they might have a different story.
Yeah, man. And dudes, speaking of dating, do not date flight attendants if you're taking any of this seriously. My goodness, they're on 4 days and off 5, and they will keep you out all night or in all night on a Tuesday, and you're screwed at work the next day. They'll throw your whole rhythm, circadian or otherwise, out the window. Those chicks. Just saying.
Well, and I think the interesting thing, men and women, there's a study out there that says, well, women need 20 more minutes of sleep because their brains are so complex. Well, there's not a whole lot of research to support that, but we do have different biological needs, right? That's sleep, but it's still a hormone factory for both of us, right? Women, actually, their circadian rhythm starts earlier. Like, there are different things that if you are with a partner and you're both maybe having different sleep issues, these are things that you can talk about to say, hey, look, this is going to actually make us better the next day. And people who have actually been part of these studies will have journals of like, well, how did I sleep the last night? Well, we slept horribly and we fought our fights because, everyone fights, and that's okay. But our fights were meaner, or they were, it had a more negative tune to it because we're both snappy now. I think that's something that couples can really do together. And a lot of this I take from myself. My wife and I try and try and do that, right? Because we want to be better for each other the next day and better for our kids. And if our kids see us fighting, then, it's just, again, it's more snowballs. We don't need more snowballs.
Yeah, there is a snowball effect to this, which kind of brings us full circle back to people don't take this seriously enough. I mean,
Yeah.
you and your partner, these guys who live with a woman, married or whatever, in a relationship, and your sleep patterns aren't the same as each other's, or you're both sleep deprived, you get cranky. And when you get cranky, you start having less sex. And when you're not getting laid, you get even crankier. And it's this vortex of doom, right?
Yeah.
And yet, people underestimate the power of everything we've talked about here today, which is why I really appreciate you, Josh, and everything you brought to the table today. And what I want to do is I want to send these guys to your website, and we'll go ahead and make it mountaintoppodcast.com/dreamer to get to Josh's website, which is actually dreamer.store. And when they get there, you have blogs and you have posts and you have all these studies and everything, but they can also find out about your Dreamer product, can't they, when they go to that site?
Absolutely. We've got a ton of information about our product. We use sound frequencies that help lower cortisol, lower heart rate. So, whether regulation's a term we want to use or not, but it actually helps calm us down. And our brains
Importantly,
need to feel,
you said it works on pets too.
It works on pets. Again, we started this for our kids, and all of a sudden we're using this. My wife's nursing, and she goes, "Man, I'm feeling a lot calmer." And I'm like, "Well, let's put this in the bedroom for us." If we don't have our Dreamer in the room, something feels off, because it actually lowers. It's like it's the same as having a sound bowl bath. This is actually calming us down. Again, lowering your heart rate, lowering your cortisol. Your brain, again, needs to feel safe to sleep. Like if you're in a fight or flight mode, you're not sleeping. So lowering that cortisol. So yes, you can find our Dreamer product. We hope, if anybody is interested, we'd love for you to support us. But we also have a ton of blogs about, the importance of sleep, and not only for you, your family, your partner. And we hope you spread the word and take it seriously, because we really think you're going to be a better version of yourself if you do.
And you mentioned to me right before we started this particular recording, Josh, that you're generously going to send me one. And I tell you what, I can't wait to try it. I can already sense it'll help. So yeah, guys, go
Absolutely.
to mountaintoppodcast.com/dreamer and get you some. And with that, I'm also going to put Josh's email address, which is josh@sleepwithdreamer.com, and also his Instagram, which is dreamer4sleep, FOR, _. Put that in the show notes for you as well, so you can connect with Josh Bronfman however you'd like. Josh, once again, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been fun and informative, and I hope you'll come back.
I would always like to come back, Scott. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Been a great show. Guys, check out our sponsors, Origin in Maine, Hero Soap Company, and the Keyport when you go to mountaintoppodcast.com and put in your coupon code MOUNTAIN10 with any purchase to get 10% off. Also, gentlemen, check it out. I want to know what's going on in your life with women. What is holding you back? What is that one sticking point? And have I ever talked about it on this show, or have I somehow neglected after all these years to mention that one thing that's most important to you? Well, I want to know. Get on my calendar, talk to me for a full half an hour over Zoom. And if a coaching program makes sense to implement from there, we'll do that too. But most importantly, I want to get in touch with you guys, know who's listening, so I can do a better show for you. You can get on my calendar and a whole bunch of other things also at mountaintoppodcast.com. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.